Hi again then guys, and welcome to episode 37 of Global Contenders, the review series for the touring cars of Gran Turismo, GT6 in particular. And this particular pick is for a vehicle which kind of has a little bit of an ironic cult following. There are definitely people who really enjoy this car, enjoy using the car, and also just enjoy the concept of the car, which kind of seems a bit contradictory but in a funny way. And it is of course the Toyota Prius Touring Car. Now, although this vehicle is technically a fictional car, a PD original, there are real versions in racing of the Toyota Prius. There's even a GT300 class Prius, which is actually an awesome looking car, and I wish we had it on the game. But this particular model that we do have, as I said, has something of a following, but it's not exactly a following of people who dominate racing with it. It's more the kind of car that you pull out for a bit of fun, as an alternative to, well, driving fast, and also just for people who like one-make racing with this particular vehicle. And I would say by far and away this is the best scenario for this car. One-make racing is great for this vehicle. It's perfect for that. It's fun, it's ironic, it's kind of silly, but it works. It's great for getting a group of mates together and just racing these kind of weird little touring cars. So that being said, what do you get when you actually buy one? Because 185 grand is a lot of cash for a Toyota Prius. Well, don't set your expectations too high, because you're not getting a supercar. You're getting a touring car, but kind of only just barely, because the specs on this model aren't exactly earth-shattering. Now, the engine is, of course, a hybrid. It's a 1.8 litre, it's front-wheel drive. You're looking at 226 horsepower, 203 foot-pounds of torque, and it's unfortunately heavier than you'd probably like it to be at 1,035 kilos. The horsepower per tonne understandably does suffer because of the high weight and the low power. It's only 218. That's basically lower level hot hatch territory when tuned. So for a hot hatch, not bad, but for a touring car, well, not so good. The PP is, as you'd expect, pretty low, but in fact even lower than you're probably thinking. 445. That's very, very low, especially considering that's the best you can get out of this car. So what does it actually offer in terms of driving, performance in a straight line and around corners, competitive range, etc.? Well, as you'd probably assume, given its power, it's not overly quick. The single speed means that what you get is what you get when it comes to straight line performance. And unfortunately, as I already mentioned in the Dark series episode for this vehicle, it's just not overwhelmingly quick. It's not bad, it's just not really that useful. I would put this in the same kind of category as the Honda CRZ touring car, the Red Bull Junior, perhaps the Nissan Micra Cup car to some degree, but not as much. Basically vehicles like that. The Jay Leno tank car certainly is a similar one, because although these vehicles are all very different, about as different to each other as you can get, the one thing that they share in common is that beyond one-make racing, and just the novelty of owning them, they don't have a huge amount of usability. They can be used to win races under certain circumstances, but they're just not really great for that. And as far as those vehicles go, the Prius is one of the best examples of this, because it's just not quick enough. It's not a bad car, the handling I would say is very good, it's one of the most beginner-friendly racing cars in the game, not too surprisingly. It's actually a pretty decent looking car, I think. You can paint the car, you can change the rims, you can personalise it, so again, perfect for beginners, but it's just so underpowered. It deserves to be able to be tuned more, because if you could tune it more, this would be a usable car. If you could have, say, 350, 400 horsepower perhaps when tuned, maybe even more, but don't get your hopes too high, that would really make this car so much more usable, because then the weight would be much more impressive. As it is, it just feels too heavy and doesn't have enough power to get the job done. So, for winning endurance races or sprints, it's not exactly an ideal choice. For one-make racing, well, of course it's great, but then again, so's anything when you're all using the same car. Nobody has an advantage apart from their driving skill, and a lot of people like it that way. if you're a fan of that kind of racing, then this is certainly a great option in that regard. But apart from that, I would say that the only genuine use that the Prius Touring Car has in racing, unless of course you're racing against people with virtually no skill, is basically just seasonal events. 450pp seasonal events in particular, the kind of ones where you race against the AI, maybe the occasional time trial. It can be useful for those if you want to use it for that. Or maybe even lower, say 400pp. But in real world scenarios against real people, it just doesn't hold up. Not unless you just keep it to the one make. Now, I did though include it in the Dark series, so if you'd like to know the reasons why, you can check out that episode. But overall, this is a vehicle which, it certainly has a niched category of buyer, and if you are that type of person, you may well love this car. I know there are some people who do. But beyond the irony of its existence, it doesn't have a huge amount of use. But overall, it's not a waste of money, it's just not necessarily the most useful of touring cars. It's a little too niched perhaps for its own good. But overall, that's it for this particular pick. I'll see you guys next time, and as always, thanks for watching.